With the reveal of Black Ops 7 and the global tensions rising in 2025, we're diving headfirst back into the Call of Duty franchise for the 10-year anniversary of BO3. Turning from the most hated game in the franchise to the most iconic and beloved title by fans, BO3 has had one of the most generational runs of all time, yet it's not even close to being done. 2025 is the most important year for Call of Duty. It's the first year ever where we've gotten sandwiched by two back-to-back Black Ops games. And if you're a diehard Black Ops fan, you would also know that 2025 is the year Black Ops 2 takes place in. But this video isn't about Black Ops 2, or let alone Black Ops 7. 2025 marks the 10-year anniversary of arguably the greatest Call of Duty ever made. Back up. BO3 released in November of 2015 and was the second futuristic game in the franchise. In between the underrated Advanced Warfare and the absolute abomination that is Infinite Warfare, this 3-game run was the futuristic era of Call of Duty. This is what fans back then called the downfall, or even the death of COD.
This isn't Call of Duty.
This is just Titanfall.
We want boots on the ground.
This game is pay to win.
BO3 had an unbelievable amount of backlash and was wildly called the worst game in the franchise, which may surprise you because if you were to ask anyone now, they'll say it's the best game. So what happened? It all started when BO3 was released on a decade-old fossil, the 360. A lot of fans still hadn't upgraded to the Xbox One yet, so fans figured,
BO3 is coming to the 360? Why even upgrade?
I'm so sorry.
what the fuck is this? Now yes, BO3 somehow looked worse than BO2 on the 360, but that doesn't mean the actual version of the game looked bad. I can't lie, this game packed a punch. Okay, now I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but I honestly do think BO3 looks better than any new Call of Duty. And I'm not saying the individual graphics look better per se, but if you were to show me a screenshot of Modern Warfare 2 and Black Ops 3, guess what? I'm taking BO3. This game was crafted from people who actually cared about their game. They took time to build something with character and an atmosphere, something the new games have yet to grasp. Just like Black Ops 2, you could purchase a DLC map pack with 1 new zombies map and 4 new multiplayer maps. Sometimes I wish they stuck to this formula because I feel like they put more effort into these maps. Was it because it costed money? Probably. Paying for maps might sound crazy now, but you got some pretty unique maps with these DLC. You had Outlaw, which was a western take on the iconic BO2 map Standoff, and yeah, maybe it's not 100% original, but I thought it was cool. Then there's my personal favorite map of all time, Splash, for no reason. I mean, who wouldn't want to gun people down in front of the kids at a water park? One of my other personal favorites is Micro. In this map, you shrink down to the size of a pebble and fight on a picnic table, and occasionally ride a hot dog. Not my kind of hot dog riding, but still cool, I guess. You can also use the inside of a pool noodle as a way to rotate and flank the enemy team. Doesn't get cooler than that. Surprisingly, an overlooked or even forgotten feature from BO3 was its Specialist. Now, I can't really remember how people felt about it back then, but something tells me that it didn't go over well in the community. Yeah, it checks out. And I guess that's why they gave up on Specialist and never brought him back in Cold War or BO6. But once again, another feature the fans hated that I honestly liked. The Specialist always put a twist on every game you played. You could either be equipped with a flamethrower, maybe a railgun, or hell, even invisibility. Now that I say those out loud, maybe those were a terrible idea. The weapon system in BO3 was definitely a controversial one. Now, normally you're gonna work your ass off to get from level 1 to level 55, and in the meantime, you're gonna unlock every single weapon there is to unlock. And don't get me wrong, BO3 did have that. Normally there's 31 weapons, but there's 37 other ones. How do you get those, you ask? Gambling! A fucking reticle? Don't get me wrong, I love gambling. I'm a gambling man, but rolling a DLC weapon was next to impossible. On my old Xbox, I was around Prestige 8. And guess how many of those DLC weapons I had? Go ahead and guess. 2! And one of those was given to me for free. Now, I did roll the Path of Sorrows, and that was, pretty sick. I mean, who wouldn't like a katana? And I know people hated the system, but I don't know if they hated it because you had to gamble or the fact it was impossible. Either or, the low success rate made my katana my most prized possession.
I love you. No one can hurt you.
Zombies is held very highly by fans. If you were to ask anyone what the best Zombies was, I can almost guarantee that they'll say BO3. But if you were to ask someone in 2015 what the best Zombies was, the odds of them saying BO3 are just as low, if not lower, than rolling a DLC weapon in the black market. Now, what shift had to have happened to make this game go from the worst Zombies to the most beloved? Well, I have no idea. The game launched with just Shadows of Evil, which most consider to be a top 3 zombies map, or hell, even the best map. Yet the reception for this map was terrible. Now, was it because it was new, or was it because Pack-a-Punch wasn't as obtainable as walking 10 feet and being done? Who knows? Now, most of the hate for Shadows of Evil was relieved when they released the first DLC map pack, which included the now fan favorite Origins. I mean, the Rising Drag, sorry. This was the turnaround point for BO3. Not just because it was a well-designed map, but because it was familiar. Anyone who's ever played zombies could easily understand the concept of the bows, because this was the same wonder weapon system that was used in Origins. Even the dragons that you obtained souls for were identical to the wolves in Mob of the Dead. And if you wanted to go one step further when it comes to similarities, this is not the first time we've seen a rocket ship in zombies. The second DLC map was Zetsubo no Shima, and this map set BO3 back just a little bit. Not a lot of people really enjoyed this map, me included, not because it was a bad map by any means, just forgettable. Now, looking at every map for BO3, it makes you think, what could DLC 3 be about? Probably nothing too different, probably just... And we've lost it, okay. Garad Krovi brought us not just dragons, but the Raygun Mark III. And to be honest, I don't know where fans got the name Raygun Mark III from, because that is not its government name at all. But I guess we're rolling with it, I don't fucking know. Now, I wish I could tell you that riding a dragon to go pack a punch your gun in a zombies game is stupid, but I'd be lying. This is every man's dream. 10 out of 10. The last DLC map was controversial again for some reason. Revelations was a blend of maps like Mob of the Dead, Origins, and Nocturne Toten. And not like the kind of blend that Horizon Track had with features from other maps. No, this was actually a blend of all of these maps thrown into a blender and spat out into space. Wait, space? Now, you would think that the 6 base maps would be enough for Treyarch and they would start working on their next project, but no. No. They released arguably the greatest DLC in all of gaming history. Almost every World at War and Black Ops 1 Zombies map was now playable on the most graphically advanced game in the series. So now BO3 isn't just a standalone game anymore. It now has almost every single fan favorite map from previous titles, such as Keynote Toten, Moon, and Noct. This alone would make this game timeless, but they didn't stop there. We didn't just get this incredible DLC. We single-handedly got the greatest feature ever added to Call of Duty history, where one click of a button could give you any mod. You want a mod menu? Sure. You want to play as the penguins of Madagascar? Go ahead. But guess what also counts as a mod? Maps. A few months later, fans started theorizing the possibility of another Zombie Chronicles, and that we would get every map that was left out of the original. There was no confirmation or even tease from Treyarch about this, but I guess fans were just itching for more content. But it was clear that Treyarch had pretty much wrapped up all of BO3 and they would start full production on BO4.
What are we gonna do? We'll never get to see my favorite maps die, rise, and transit in its full glory. Who the fuck are those guys?
Zombie Chronicles 2 is a compilation of fan favorite maps being fully remastered and brought to BO3 via the Steam Workshop. These maps are one-to-one skilled masterpieces that absolutely blow the originals out of the water, and they're completely free. Our first map of Chronicles is Nuketown Zombies. Nuketown was never a fan favorite, but it's still a fun map to just try to high round. One pretty cool thing about this remaster allows you to pick between BO2 or BO3 weapons. They also give you the choice between the BO3 or the Legacy HUD, which is definitely a nice touch for those wanting to experience it faithfully to how it was in BO2. Our second map of Chronicles is kind of a cheap one to throw in here, I think, because it technically already had a remaster by Treyarch, but the map is the iconic Booris. If you couldn't justify spending $8 on the giant DLC, then I got you covered. Also, all the links are going to be in the description for all the maps I mentioned, so you don't have to go out of your way searching for them. Subscribe while you're down there. The third Chronicles map is a Black Ops 1 classic. We're heading back to Siberia for Call of the Dead. I never really had a chance back then to play much of this map, but that doesn't mean I don't recognize Ball. Now, Sean, the creator, not to be mixed with Tyler, Sean uploaded his own video breaking down this whole process of making this map. He showed his entire journey coming from having zero background on mapping to becoming one of the greatest map makers in the scene. But Mr. Sean didn't just stop there. He also developed the fourth map on this list, the infamous Mob of the Dead. Once again, an absolute stellar remaster of this map. It's completely faithful to the original and only improved upon the Black Ops 2 predecessor. But don't think for a second because they changed the graphics or it's in a whole different game and, you know, it's a remaster. It still captures the embodiment of what Mob of the Dead was and the aura that Mob of the Dead had. The last map that's playable right now is Die Rise. And I'm not going to talk about it much here because I already made a whole full-length video just on this map alone. So if you really like Die Rise, go check that out. But what I will say here is someone who is a huge fan of Die Rise and honestly one of the most underrated maps in my opinion and I loved, after playing this remaster, I cannot physically bring myself to play the original. If that's not saying something, I don't know what is. Now the last 3 maps in Chronicles 2 are currently still in development, but live progress is shown on their respective Discords. 5 is a mind-blowing experience of 60s icon JFK. Now as of right now, all we know is that at the bare minimum, it's a full 1-to-1 replica. It possibly expands upon the original, so it very well could be bigger. Unfortunately, it has been over a year since we've last had an update, so hopes are low on a release date, or if there even will be a release. Our second to last map is one of my personal favorites and honestly one of the most overlooked zombies maps of all time. Buried, developed by Slayin, we head back to the iconic western town that takes place in Africa? Yeah, go watch a lore breakdown to understand that one, buddy. Now this remaster adds a beautiful warm aesthetic with light rays that add to the dark underground yet illuminated feel that the original Buried tried to go for but couldn't reach due to hardware limitations. Now we could possibly see this remake by the end of 2025 or maybe early 2026, but I don't want to get anyone's hopes up. The final map of Zombie Chronicles 2 is Transit. Transit actually has 2 separate versions being made right now by 2 different developers. The first one to start development was made by Verko with his return to Transit. This version goes a lot more into depth on each location and expands upon every minor spot on the map. If you're interested in this concept of reimagining Transit, you can play both the bus depot and the tunnel right now on the Steam Workshop. And now the second version of Transit is developed by the same people who released the Die Rise remaster earlier this year. With the success of flipping Die Rise from a wildly hated zombies map to a now masterclass of a map, Xela and Dobby took the same gamble with Transit. This version of Transit is completely faithful to the original and is just a change in visuals and graphics, and hopefully a change in the godforsaken pack-a-punch system. You can get access to these maps by subscribing to either Xela or Dobby's Patreons. But don't worry, you don't have to pay for the map when it releases on the Steam Workshop. You only have to pay if you want to support the creator and play the map early. Now we talked about a lot today, from the rough beginnings of BO3 to the rise of what is now the golden era of Call of Duty. What started as a game many thought would mark the downfall of the franchise ended up redefining what greatness in Call of Duty could look like. With BO7 on the horizon and community projects like Zombie Chronicles 2 breathing new life into this game, it's clearer than ever that BO3 wasn't just ahead of its time. It defined it. Now before this video ends, make sure to stop by the black market and maybe hit one more crate. You never know. You just may get that katana. Another fucking reticle?